comes to the disability aspect of the MS, do you have to be basically like bedridden, or I guess what I'm trying to say, how bad off do you have to be before you even qualify to get the ball rolling?
Okay, so there's no specific answer to that, but I will tell you that you have to be out of work or anticipated to be out of work for 12 months or more. MS has compassionate allowances, which means if you are of a severity that MS meets a certain listing criteria by the Social Security Administration, you would jump up to the beginning of the line. Many people don't have, thankfully, that severity. So how bad do you need to be? You have to have medical documentation supporting your complaints. So if you have depression, if you have cognitive issues, if you have swelling, if you have difficulty walking, if you're seeing a neurologist, a pain clinic, if you're seeing a psychiatrist, you need to develop the record, and you need to make sure that that doctor is going to bat for you and that they are supporting your case for disability. As long as you can document that you have consistent complaints and they affect your activities of daily living, they're affecting your lifestyle on a day-to-day basis, and that prevents you from being able to hold down a job that's 40 hours a week consistently, then you qualify for disability. Now, with that said, we are in an election year, and they are pulling the purse strings of Social Security Administration. So we're seeing record denials in certain states. We're seeing a lot of reviews on people that are already on disability. So what do you need really to win a case is on a case-by-case basis, your age, your education, your work history, all that goes to play, along with your medical condition and support from your medical doctors. You don't have to be bedridden, but you do need the proper medication and documentation from your doctors. Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, this question is also for you, Lisa. Question's about how much can you make when you're on SSDI?
Okay, so I actually looked that up because that's the most common question that I get in these engagements. So right now, for 2015, the number is $1,820 per month. The number for 2016 is the same thing, $1,820 per month. Now, with that said, I would urge anybody who's looking to work that is on Social Security disability to know that the minute you start earning any monies, you are putting a flag up to your record. Because then the question becomes, how much can you work? How consistently can you work? And whether or not you're keeping your numbers artificially low so that you can double dip. I have seen people earning $400 being questioned. I've seen people earning $1,200 without a problem. Anybody who gets close to the $1,800 mark is going to have a big review. That would be my professional opinion. You can fight it, then there's a trial work period. So I would ask anybody who's working or thinking of working, who's on benefits or applying for benefits with work activity, to see me afterwards for any specific questions.
So going back again, though, I didn't hear from Lisa about the fatigue for disability, and how does that weigh out as far as somebody applying for disability?
Okay, so fatigue is a huge factor, and it's very similar to what Ms. Creek was saying regarding fatigue and frequency. So as an attorney and appearing before a judge and arguing these cases, what we do is we take a lot of testimony regarding the fatigue, very, very specific testimony with regard to what time do you get up in the morning, how long are you up before you need to take a nap, do you prepare your meals or are they already prepared, when do you start feeling tired, how long is your nap, do you get refreshed after a nap, or do you wake up fatigued, how does it affect your interpersonal relationships, your social relationships, and fatigue, because it's such an esoteric complaint. You have a lot of doctors who initially will say, well, before you get diagnosed with MS, and I go back to this, is a number one complaint. So you'll have people saying, maybe it's side effects of medication, maybe it's depression, maybe you just need a vacation or you need rest. So you put it all together and you really have to have the symptomatology and you go through that, and you have to talk to your doctor and also show how your life has interfered because of the fatigue and how frequently it comes on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a weekly, and on a monthly basis. I hope that helps answer.
Question I was just handed is, can the government request drug testing for cannabis for SSDI?
Well, the government doesn't have enough money to actually request drug testing from people that they want to drug test. However, if you have blood tests and it does show cannabis, then you have a whole other argument which has to do with what particular individual from the government is reviewing your medical records, whether you're at an initial level, reconsideration level, at a judge's level, and then you have to deal with their personal bias, you have to deal with the case law in your state, and then you have to deal with all the congruence with regard to how strong the cannabis may be or may not be, and how much are you taking, and how much are you smoking, and how are you acquiring this, all the way to how are you paying for it. So it opens a lot of trap doors. It's not something that we don't address. We address this weekly, not daily, but weekly, and especially with MS patients. But they can. They're not going to send you individually to get drug tested. Short-term, long-term disability policies do. Even some workers' compensations will, but that doesn't apply to here. But with the federal government, they don't really request drug testing. They base it on the drug tests of the doctors that order and your medical records.
I guess this is for Dr. Janicki. On the stem cell question and Limtrada, is that similar, like not stem cells, but you're wiping your immune system out? Can you explain that a little bit?
Something that remyelinates. I mean, it's the mechanism of actions would be entirely different. One working on your immune cells and the other one working on the cells that produce myelin.
You're wonderful.
Next question's over here.
You may not realize this. The people in the room may not know that November is National Caregivers Month, and we recognize that MS is not only an individual disease, but it affects an entire family in so many various ways. I just wonder, Emily, if you could speak to ways that we can support the people who support those of us who live with MS and additional services you might offer to them.
Well, your question was about care.
Promotes that at all? I never have known.
Your cornea?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't think so. Now, there's sometimes you can get some corneal disease that a little higher incidence in patients with MS, but I wouldn't touch myself, really. I agree with,
So for anybody that has questions about the biotin, though, we've written up a lot of articles, and you can find it on our blog site. So you can go to our blog from the website, and you can look up, just type in biotin in the description or the search box, and the articles will come up. There has been a lot being for PPMS.
Lisa, if someone receives that review letter and it says, are you doing the same, better, worse, what do you check?
The same or worse. Never better.
Because?
I mean, because better is going to review you. And then the question becomes, how much better, and what are you able to do now that you couldn't do before, and can we transfer what you're doing now to work activity? So always stable, consistent, the same, or worse.
Okay, but if I used to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes and now I go every 30 minutes, is that better?
No.
No, it's not.
Just put the same, and you can put, because everything offsets. So maybe it's helping one particular symptom, but it's because you have decompensated in other things, or because you're taking medication to help you with something else. So don't overthink it. The issue is really, are you stabilized, which is the same, or have you improved, which is better? So you always want to keep it at the same, consistent, unless there's something that changed in circumstance that has made you worse.
Okay, and if you're showing income, is that a red flag? Are you automatically going to be reviewed further?
If you're showing income, it is definitely a red flag. They look at how much money you are receiving, but it's on a sliding scale. It's based on the reviewer. So I've seen income be a red flag where the figures are $18.20 a month. So technically, you should be able to earn anything $18.20 and below and still qualify, but that's a huge red flag. So any income will be suspect for review, will be a reason to review you, to see whether or not you're keeping the monies artificially low, and whether or not that's all you can do, that's all they're giving you in terms of work, but if you're capable of working more hours, or whether or not you are just physically unable or emotionally unable to hold 40 hours a week on a consistent basis, on a permanent basis, consistently 40 hours a week. So any work activity becomes a red flag.
Very common in a lot of neurological conditions besides MS, Parkinson's disease, strokes, things like that. It will.
No, go ahead. Does your spouse's income have anything to do with yours when they come down to figuring out what you qualify for or whatever?
With regard to Social Security, it depends on the type of program that you're applying for. So if you have worked and you paid money into the system and you're currently insured, spousal income doesn't affect you in any way. But if you have not worked or you don't have enough quarters of coverage, then yes, it will affect.
How many quarters of coverage is like mandatory?
There's a rule of thumb that I use, and it's basically if you've worked 5 out of the last 10 years, you're insured. So really they want to make sure that you qualify within the time period and that you put in, and the amount of quarters is indicative based on age because the retirement age has extended. So in general, if you've worked 5 out of the last 10 years full-time, paying Social Security taxes, you will qualify. That period of time expires. So if it's been 6 or 7 years since you filed for benefits, then you're looking at, you have to claim disability at the time period within those 5 or 10 years. So it's case specific, and Social Security will run a review and tell you based on your earnings and every year that you've ever worked since you were 16 years old or 15, reported on your Social Security, it will be printed out and you'll be able to see exactly how much you've worked. So you may have had a very long, extensive work history, but if you didn't work 5 out of the last 10 years, you may not qualify under your own account because that expires. So basically, if you are thinking of applying for disability, you don't wait too long, because by waiting, it may make you not qualify for one program, and due to income or resources, you may not qualify for the other program, which may leave you in the dark. So, case specific again.
Thank you.
Security disability, for me, I paid into that. It's not a gift, but I still feel like I don't really deserve it. So I should be back to work, and I'll go try to work and just put in a day or two, and that really proves that I really can't. So for somebody that really thinks they should, I would recommend to maybe volunteer a couple hours or see if you can do it before you actually apply for a job and start making money and get a W-2 for whatever. Because I do, and I kind of trade for acupuncture and all, but he knows I can't work more than a day, or half a day or something, and even some days not at all. So that's just my suggestion, and I just wondered if that would be,
That's an excellent point. It's very important for your self-esteem and to combat depression to go out there and put yourself out there and work and try to feel productive and get involved with your community and give back. And many times when you get on a therapeutic drug and you start seeing some improvement, then we start getting a little stubborn. We go back to our old selves and say, well, we're going to go to work. And many, many, many times I suggest the same thing. Start volunteering. Don't get paid for it. See how many hours you can do. See how you're capable of doing it. And then if you are going to work 5 hours, 10 hours, getting some money, that's very, very, very important for your quality of care and your improvement and your environment and your relationships, your self-esteem. So I'm a big proponent of it, but it does raise flags. So even right now, and I'm just gonna put it out there and give you an example. We already talked about cannabis, so I can put this out. This is a recorded program. If the federal government had more money, they can actually hear and see who is talking and saying they're working and volunteering and how many hours, and they would be able to technically investigate. It's within their realm to do so. So you have to be smart about it. So it takes a long time to get disability benefits. Some people get approved right away. Some people have to wait years. It takes a long time to decide to stop working. Some people here, they have a diagnosis and stop working right away, and some people, it takes years of progression before they decide to stop receiving any kind of income. So on the same token, once you are on disability and you're receiving benefits, for you to then turn around and say, now that I'm getting it, let me go back to work, it's a red flag you don't necessarily need to put up that quickly. So it's benefits that are difficult to obtain. You have to be out of work for 29 months before you receive Medicare. If you're under a Title 16 program where you haven't worked, then you can receive Medicaid immediately, but then your spousal income comes into play. So the implications of receiving benefits is big, and so therefore you should look at the implications of working could negatively affect your ability to receive benefits. So volunteering is very, very important for a number of reasons. Once you start earning and collecting money, then you start making yourself known by putting up red flags.
Should have worn some.
Can I come to see you, say Lisa as an attorney, or the clinicians here? What are the best ways that we can prep, because we know your time is limited and your time is expensive? What do we need to do to come in to be prepared to have a truly meaningful dialogue as partners with you, either as my attorney or my doctor or my PA?
I can answer it very quickly. You need to have your medical sources. You need to have the name of the physician, the address, the phone numbers, and the time span, and document the complaints that you have. Even if they seem insignificant, anything from forgetting things to writing things to making sandwiches instead of meals, anything that has changed in your life, all those things are very important. We get our bulk of the medical records from the physicians who request everything. So it's really information gathering in the beginning to see whether or not there's a case. Then we pull out the records and we review what it is that you say you have versus what your doctors say you have, and we put it together to decide and determine if there's a case.